All right. So, what's up, everybody? I am today joined by the Mr. Matt Sheldon, professional soccer player, footballer, whatever you want to call it, for FC Tulsa, and also the founder of the YouTube channel Become Elite. First of all, Matt, congrats on making the playoffs. I know it's a huge accomplishment for you. It's been a few years, and this is the second time, I believe, we just mentioned you made the playoffs on your career. So, first of all, how does that feel, man?
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I mean, even right off the bat, just talking about like mentality and everything, it's crazy that how much better it feels now after going through 3 years of not making the playoffs and having those lows. It really makes this year even more emotional and make it worth so much more because I kind of took it for granted. I mean, in college, all 4 years, I made playoffs there, had successful seasons, and then my very first year rookie season into the USL made playoffs. So yeah, you almost don't enjoy it as much because you haven't gone through those years of
Yeah.
being low and not making it. So yeah, I mean, now I'm on cloud nine. I'm so excited. And obviously it's the first step. Like we want to perform in playoffs, but definitely enjoying the moment right now and just, yeah, happy for sure.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's awesome. How has enjoying the moment looked for you today? I mean, it's only been what, less than 24 hours, right? So
Yeah.
how has that kind of looked?
Yeah, so I filmed it, so I'll have a vlog coming out here soon about it. But pretty much, literally after the game, just enjoying it with the team in the locker room, just trying to be in the moment, run around. I'm a terrible dancer, but watch the other guys dance, and then just play music in the locker room and just be happy and just really kind of like. I always try to tell myself to just try to remember it because I know it's a very short career, and so those moments that are few and far between, I really try to soak it in, remember it, and just like keep it in my mind, like how that felt. And then afterwards come back and it's kind of crazy how quickly that feeling starts to fade already.
Mm,
You're on this high and all of a sudden it's immediately after the first 30 minutes, it's already kind of starting to fade. But then just kind of like with Mimi, my fiance, just hanging out, we had like a glass of wine or two, which is very rare for us.
yeah.
And then just kind of sat on the couch. We actually watched Great British Bake Off for a little bit, and then just try to just be happy and enjoy it. And then today is just kind of like I did my active recovery session, recovered a little bit, walked around, but yeah, just kind of let the body heal and already start to prepare for the next game.
Yeah. So you've celebrated in true Matt Sheldon fashion.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
No, that's awesome. Those moments with the team are always like the best. I feel like after you end your career to look back on those and remember those and try and savor those moments while you're in them for sure.
Yeah.
And so the next part is like you already mentioned you're already preparing for the next part. So how do you go from that kind of mindset of like accomplishing like a huge achievement and then into the next part where it's like, all right, put your head back down and get to work.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's for me. I really give myself like a time limit almost of like because we have today all off, and we actually even have tomorrow off, and then we start training Tuesday and straight into Friday. So I told myself for these 2 off days to really enjoy it and just to do the right things with my body and do the active recovery sessions and yoga and everything that I need to do and get the good sleep. But to really spend these 2 off days of just kind of like relaxing, hanging out. We've earned it, so it's kind of like just prepare for that and kind of like separate, like batch into my head. This is like my enjoyment time and to celebrate. And then as soon as Tuesday morning starts, it's complete. Forget about it. Nothing's happened. I haven't accomplished anything. And from Tuesday on, it's just all focused on winning against either El Paso or New Mexico. I think it's going to be El Paso, but they're
Yeah.
playing. Actually, their game just finished, so I haven't even checked on that.
Oh, you can check if you want.
No, I'll check after. It's all good.
All right. Yeah. Um, yeah. I think I've never really been in that position where it's like, you just accomplished something and you have to switch your kind of mindset after you can give yourself a little buffering time, but to kind of go right back into that where it's like, all right, head down and get to work. So let's like rewind a little bit. Because like obviously this moment is amazing. But let's talk about kind of your background in soccer, and kind of your like career up until now.
Yeah, yeah. I'm basically, to sum it up, I was always the kid that was like late bloomer for everything. Like I came from a very American household, and I never really was like pushed into the soccer world and like full just a footballer. I was destined to be a professional footballer. It was just I was an athletic kid that liked sports, and soccer didn't come easy to me, but I enjoyed it. And then I kind of just found my way into the club system and was always kind of bouncing around from B team to B team, and nothing crazy, no ODP, no academy. If you would have looked at me from 9 through 17 years old, you would never have been like, oh yeah, this guy's going to be a pro. It was just, yeah, he's decent. He's okay player for Portland or whatever.
Yeah.
And, but I just always took it very seriously. I just always was very competitive, and I just loved it and loved all sports. So I just always wanted to improve with it. And then I really kind of hit that growth spur. Everything started to click, and I really started to find success like my senior year of high school, specifically my senior year of high school. And then it just started getting on to like one of the best teams in state, having a really good senior season in high school, going to some college ID camps. I went straight over got recruited by a couple Division I schools, and then into college, and had a great 4-year career at UC Davis. Really enjoyed it. Scored some goals, started to kind of like get some recognition and everything, and I kind of realized that playing pro is possible. And I kind of went for it, and I kind of knew that you only have really one shot to do it. So I kind of dropped out of school, went after it, and bounced around for a bit. It wasn't the easiest path, but after going over to Iceland and Canada and Germany and all this stuff, I finally signed my first fully professional contract with Orange County Blues 4 or 5 years ago. 4 years ago. Yeah, 2016. And then just been playing since then.
Yeah. So I know you get this question all the time, but what was it like when you finally did sign that first professional contract?
Yeah, to be honest, it's very similar to like the situation it's kind of like it's going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
It almost doesn't feel real when it happens. Like you kind of are bouncing around so much and going on trial with so many different teams. At least I was bouncing around so much, going on so many different trials, getting so close, having contracts offered to me and then rescinded and all this stuff that you can taste it. You're so close. And then when it finally, your coach is talking about signing you, and the contract's on the way and everything's going to be sorted, you just kind of in your head, you're like, no, this is just another time. It's not going to work out. And then you finally get the piece of paper, the contract, you sign it. And it's a mix of like, you're just so happy that you finally accomplished it, with just relief of just, well, I've worked my ass off for this, and now it's finally happened. I can just take a deep breath now. But then again, like I said, in the situation I'm in now, it's like you still really haven't accomplished anything. You've signed the pro contract, but I had training the next day. So all I was focused on was like, okay, I'll enjoy it tonight. But the next morning I have training, and I'm trying to get a starting spot for the weekend. That's all. You kind of like immediately transition again for the next goal.
Mm-hmm. And then you mentioned like kind of bouncing around, going on trial, having things fall through. How did that kind of affect your mindset when you would go into another trial? Were you always confident, or was it like, well, shoot, like maybe I got rejected the last time, or it just fell through? Did that kind of weigh on your mind when you went into a new situation?
Yeah, it did. But at the same time, like I felt like I was so close. I never went to a trial or went on a combine or did anything. Hey, Gucci, watch out. I never went to a trial or a combine and just felt like I was not anywhere close, or I was just like, did the rondos, and they're like, no, don't even finish this. It was always like, yeah, we really like you. And all these 2-day trials were turning into week-long trials, and these week-long trials were turning into like offers, but it just wasn't the right offer, or like, oh, we really like you, but we already have 2 fullbacks. So it was very disheartening because it took so long. It took like a year and a half to really work out. But at the same time, I just felt like everywhere I was going, something outside of my control was like stopping me from getting a pro contract. Obviously I had some times where they're just like, no, don't come back. But I felt for the most part, it was either the money wasn't right, they couldn't get the visa, or it was like, yeah, we like you, but we don't have enough foreigner spots. We don't have this. So it was like a mix of, I was getting a little disheartened, and it was definitely hard, and I was getting frustrated. But at the same time, I could just feel I was right at that level, and it kept on motivating me that like, I can't stop now. The more I went through, the more I was like, I'm even closer. I'm so close to the next one. So yeah, it was a weird mix of emotions for that, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And then you mentioned that some clubs just, well, maybe, I don't know, just because you mentioned it. I'm not saying you got rejected a bunch of times, but I mean, it's a thing that happens, especially in elite athletics. There's not room for everybody. How do you deal with that? And how does that affect your mindset?
Yeah. I think I had one that was a hard rejection, and that was over in Germany with like a fourth division team. And I went in for one trial, and it's really funny. I say this a lot, but you can almost kind of tell from the minute you get at a club if it's going to be a good trial or a bad trial. And I don't know if that's just how I feel, and I'm almost always right. But like as soon as you go in and meet the coach or do whatever, you get this vibe from the coaches or the players, and it's just like that you're either welcome there or they're really looking for you, or if they don't really care. And so I walked in, and I just remember the coach was like, "Who are you?" I was like, "I'm Matt, like American." Like, oh, and they're like, he just walked away. And then the assistant coach came up and was like, "Okay, yeah, talk to your agent." And then so he like, "Yeah, I come into here." And they put me into a locker room separate from the other locker room with all the players. I was just by myself in this locker room, changing into my boots and my kit. And so I was like, this is really weird, because every other trial I've ever been on, you're in the locker room with the guys.
Yeah.
So by myself, changing, putting on my boots. I go out there, and then just even there was like 35 players on this team. It was a huge team. And then just you had some players that just were just, yeah, you could just get that you were very welcome there. And definitely, obviously, whenever you go on a trial, you're not going to be welcomed with open arms. You're fighting for a spot. You're going to take somebody's job. But that one in particular was pretty bad. And then after the training session, the coach was like, "Yeah, I'll talk to your agent. You can come back tomorrow." And then he talked to my agent and said, "Don't come back tomorrow." And then so I was like, oh man, that did not go well. But I always told myself, it's kind of like, I really relate it to dating, where it's like, it's kind of funny, but you got to go and talk to a whole bunch of girls to really find out like, what you like and who likes you. And you have to find a good match. A lot of times it's not just about finding the hottest girl. Sometimes it's about finding the best match up with you and your personality, or most of the time that's what it's like. So I always kind of told myself with clubs, it's the same exact thing. It's not about just finding a pro club. Sometimes it's about finding a club where the coach is in need of your position and likes your playing style, and you're the right fit and the right match. And obviously you have to be good enough, but a lot of times from what I've seen, it's more than just being at the professional level. It's more about finding the right setup that is going to allow you to like really flourish. So I just, on the bad trials, I was like, not a good match. I'm at the level, but it's just not a good match. I'll go to the next one.
Yeah. And I would assume that gives you some little level of comfortability, just to know like, hey, like I performed fine. It's just like, this isn't a good fit for either of us. And then you can move on and still have the confidence to know, okay, I performed, it just wasn't the right fit. Another thing you mentioned was just kind of things that are out of your control, like the visa situation, or like the money wasn't right, or whatever it may be, or like a living situation. How do you kind of move past those things? Because I feel like, a lot of us, just, it's a natural human tendency to worry about things that we really have no control over. So how do you like personally deal with those things?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'd be lying if I said like I never worried about it at all and like I never thought about it. But I always kind of told myself that like, like I kind of always go back of like, don't have any regrets when I'm 40 years old. I don't want to look back on my life and have any regret about my career or how I choose to live my life or anything. And so I kept on telling myself that like, even if everything's like stacked against me and every single thing is like not working out, and it feels like, whatever, if it's the visa, the housing, the money, the travel, whatever, it's not working out, as long as I just focus on everything that I can possibly do in order to become a pro, and I really just focus in on that and make sure I'm not leaving any stone unturned, and I just give it my best effort. I was going to give myself 3 years to really go after it until I was 25. And I just said, if I did that every single day, emailed every single coach, do everything that I can do, and just really not worry about the external stuff that I can't control, then I can basically give up at that point after 3 years and be like, look, I gave it my best effort. I really went for it. I don't have any regrets, because I just focused so intensely on the things that I knew were going to allow me the best opportunity to sign a pro contract. And anything that I couldn't really affect or control or do whatever, it's like, okay, it sucks. But, just because this one's not going to work out, that doesn't mean the next one is going to work out. So, yeah, I just kind of like, it is tough. And I would be lying if I didn't have some bad nights where I was staying up because the visa wasn't going to come through or whatever. But yeah, for the most part, I think that was my general mentality about that.
Yeah, now you do have a really strong mentality, but part of me wonders, like, were there moments during those 3 years that were like, all right, like it's done? Like, I feel like, was there ever a point where you just felt like, okay, maybe it's not going to happen? Or did like
Yeah.
quitting ever really cross your mind seriously?
Yeah. Yeah. There's two moments for sure where I was like, I'm going to quit. I literally had in my head, I'm done. I'm going to get a real job, go back to school, do whatever. And the first moment was in Germany. So I've already been to tons of combines, tons of trials, open combines, invite only combines, tryouts, trials, everywhere, USL. Went up to Canada for it was Vancouver Whitecaps 2 preseason. It didn't work out. Went over to Iceland. It didn't work out. Been over to Germany now, and over in Germany, I've gone on like 10 different trials now, and still nothing. It still can't get that full contract that I can live off of. And like at this point, I'm like, okay, this is really tough. I'm in Germany, coming up on my 3-month tourist visa. So I'm about ready to run out of time and have to go back to America. And almost at the deadline, I get this 4th division team, SC Teutonia Vatsenborn, and they bring me in on trial. They really like me. I go into a couple preseason games. I really perform well. Sounds like they have money. The whole situation, it's sounding like they can help with the visa. It's really going to work out. The coach really likes me. Do one more exhibition game. I perform really well in that game. And then after that, they go, Matt, we want to sign you to a full pro contract pretty much, even though the 4th division over there is kind of like semi-pro. We'll give you a full pro contract, housing, help you with the visa. You'll come in tomorrow, which was Sunday, to come in and sign it. And so I was like, okay, deal, let's do it. I'm already starting to celebrate, so happy. It just felt like all this work was finally coming to this big finale of me signing this pro contract. And then I wake up Sunday morning. I don't leave my Airbnb because I didn't have any cell phone reception outside of my Airbnb. So I stay in there all day just waiting for this phone call. Doesn't come all day. I'm literally have my phone on my like nightstand, just waiting in bed, and doesn't happen. The next Monday morning, I'm like, okay, something went wrong. So I call the head coach, and he's like, hey, Matt, so the sponsor backed out from your contract. And so now we don't have the money to sign you. And so at that point, it just felt like, I mean, you can't get any closer than that, to literally be told you're going to come in on Sunday and sign the contract, to now it being completely rescinded and taken away from you. So I broke down at that point, and I'm just like, okay, I got like a week left on my tourist visa. There's no way now. I've spent too much time with this team trialing. So I called my dad and I said, I'm done. I don't have any options. I've already gone through all my stuff. I'm done. I'm going to quit. And he was like, no, just talk to the coach, see if there's anything you can do or anything he can help you with. I'm like, no, I'm done. And my dad's like, just do it. Just try. So I called the coach one more time. I called him back on that Monday, later that afternoon. I said, hey, Dennis, his name was. I was like, Dennis, do you have any other teams in the lower leagues or anything that you could just put in a good word for me? Obviously, you think I'm good enough to play it on the 4th division, but is there any way you can help me? He goes, yeah, actually I can. Gives me the in into SK Kinzenbach, and that's where I ended up signing a contract. So, but that moment, that for those 24 hours when that contract was taken away, I was in my head. I was completely, I'm gonna quit.
Mm-hmm.
I was done. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've talked about going from like those big celebratory like achievement moments and switching your mindset to, okay, now I have to perform. How do you kind of go from like a moment of like almost like near failure or like near giving up back into like, okay, now I have to perform?
Yeah. I was definitely, I mean, I was like, I cried that day. I was like completely depressed in my bed doing nothing in this small town of Gießen, Germany. And I was just like, yeah, I'm done. And, I think calling somebody or talking to somebody else really helped. So calling my dad really, really helped. And even though at the time when he was like, just give it another chance, talk to the coach, I was like, no, I'm done. I just completely shut it out. And even though I was like really done at that moment, when I really thought about it and I thought about my option of like, I'm going to go back to Portland and get a job, a 9-to-5 job or something, or stay here and give it one more go and stay one more week of that, kind of like we just talked about, of really leaving no stone unturned and having no regrets at age 40. I really told myself, well, I probably would regret this. Once I kind of calmed down, I probably would regret leaving 1 week early. So even though I went through that moment at that extreme low, you kind of come out of it. And even though I'm still mad, sad, frustrated, depressed, I still kind of like got a little bit more of a positive attitude. I'm like, okay, you know what? 1 more week, let's give it a go and we'll see what happens. So it was definitely tough. But yeah, I mean, it's just the extremes of literally accomplishing my dream to completely done, I'm going to quit, to, okay, now I'm going to come a little bit up and give it 1 more week.
Yeah. That's something you talk about a lot on your channel is like just the highs and lows of being a professional athlete. So how do you kind of balance that? How do you kind of find like the middle ground there between the high highs and the really low lows?
Yeah, I was always like an emotional player, and so like when, especially during those couple of years in Germany and even in college, I got so high on the highs and so low on the lows. And so like when I would score a goal and my name was in the newspaper for college or whatever, my town, I was just completely feeding off that and on an extreme high, which is good. I think you should enjoy it, but you don't want to get high off the highs and really have that become like your identity of like, oh, this is really fueling, and become like addicted to it almost. And then on the lows, because when the lows come, you're falling from a higher area and you're falling down even more. So I had this one player who played over in the EPL when I was in Orange County, and we were kind of like sitting on the sideline talking about something at some training, and he's like, yeah, man, you just can't get too high on the highs, you can't get too low on the lows. And for whatever reason, that kind of stuck with me of like, that's very true. Like when your name's up in lights and everything's going well, you have to enjoy it, and you have to, like what I said, enjoy the moment and relish it. But you have to realize that in a split second, everything can change. Everything can, whether it's an injury, contract ending, or whatever, something can just change. You can go so quickly. So you have to balance that, like of enjoying it, but realizing that like this is fleeting, that can change. And then the lows, the same exact way. You have to kind of like reflect and be like, why am I in a low period right now? Why am I down here? Why am I feeling like this? But you also have to realize that, again, things can change in an instant. And just as soon as you're down here completely thinking you're going to quit, you can get a lead and then sign with a different team. So I always told myself, don't get too high on the highs from that player. Don't get too low on the lows, because things can change so quickly in football. And it's almost the same way with another quote of like, you're never as good as people say you are, and you're never as bad as some people say you are. And I think that's kind of the same thing. When everyone's saying that you're the best player, you should go MLS, you should go over here, you should go over here. When you have a good season or something, you probably, you should have that attitude that I can go play there, but you don't want to get too big headed about it. In the same exact way, when you're in a rut and everyone's saying, oh, he shouldn't start, he's a bad player, he can't play pro, you can't get too low and think about that either. You just kind of have to stay in the middle and just be humble and just keep working.
Yeah. And then you mentioned in there, like, not listening to what other people have to say, like whether it's positive or negative, as a way of balancing that. How do you as a professional athlete, I have no idea. Like, I've never dealt with like press or like the public or anyone like telling me about my performance. So I have no idea. Like, how does that feel? Like, high or low?
Yeah, it's good and bad. Like, again, like kind of going off of that, you have a bad performance. I've literally gone on Twitter when I was younger and seen like Matt Sheldon's been shit this game. Like, I can't believe he's starting over this player, or what's he doing? And you see that. And I mean, you're not a robot. It's going to affect you, and it's going to get in your head. And I still remember that to this day. I'm 28 now. I think that was back when I was 23 or something. And it definitely is hard to see that and to read all of that. But again, I think I always kind of look at other pros, and I mean, like, you look in the EPL or any other league around the world, and people are calling those players terrible players and all this, and those aren't terrible players. They're amazing. So I kept on telling myself that, like, look, no matter what, people are going to find things about your game or moments about your career and hate on it. And there's going to be people out there that are going to hype you up too much as well. So it's kind of like that balance of staying in the middle. But it definitely is hard. I mean, like I said, you're not a robot. You can read those things. It's going to affect you. But I think the key is kind of like trying to take out the constructive, whatever the constructive parts are, and really try to focus on that. And if you are seeing hate comment after hate comment after hate comment that your crosses are bad, maybe that's kind of a wake-up call that, like, wow, maybe I should really work on my crossing this off season. And the flip side, if you're seeing like, oh, he's great at this, great at this, great at this, another thing is kind of like, okay, well, maybe that is part of my strengths of my game, and I really should kind of focus on that a little bit more. So it's like kind of like trying to be emotionless when you read that and try to take out the good parts. And at the same time, kind of realizing that you're going to get some great comments, you're going to get some bad comments, and you just got to focus on, talking to your coaches and your own teammates and stuff.
Definitely. And then, so we talked like kind of covered like externally, like criticism or whatever. What about internally? Because I mean, everyone, whether you're a professional athlete or an amateur or you just work out for fun, like everyone criticizes themselves in some way. Are you someone that is very self-critical? And if so, like how do you kind of avoid that or deal with that?
Yeah, I'm very, very self-critical. Very like every bad comment I've ever read, I've probably thought to myself the
Yeah.
same thing. And I think it's helped me in some ways because I'm constantly looking at my game and constantly thinking that my first touch isn't good enough, my crossing isn't good enough, my speed or athleticism or whatever. I'm always constantly thinking that every part about my game can be better. And I think I'm the type of player that even though I think those thoughts, I usually don't let them really get to me in a negative way. It's usually a more positive way of, okay, I'm just going to work on it more. I'll stay after and get extra training, extra reps, extra workouts in. Um, but I have played in many games where I've been unconfident, and especially in the beginning of my career, especially after injuries as well, you just second guess yourself so much because I'm so self-critical about my mistakes. And I always want to have a perfect game, and you're never going to have a perfect game. And if you do have a perfect game, it usually means that you aren't trying enough in the game. And it's hard. And I always try to balance that self-critical, always trying to improve with having that confidence to just go out and play. And I still think it's something that I'm still working on. I think a lot of players still work on. But I always like to look at other players in similar situations or even better situations than I am in, and kind of realize that that everybody kind of has that imposter syndrome where it's like, am I good enough to be here? Am I good enough to play here? Am I good enough for the USL or the next level or whatever? So I kind of realized that if everybody's going through these thoughts or everybody has little doubts in their head, that it's a normal thing, and to use it to benefit you in the positive way of working on yourself. But at the same time, when you're on the field, I would always rather try to go out there and just be aggressive and play as my game as best I can, and try not to be timid or afraid or do anything, because if I'm going to mess up, I'd rather mess up on my own terms and being aggressive and going and trying something than messing up and being just timid on the field and not doing that, not playing how I know I could play. And it's definitely been like a battle because I've definitely felt timid out there or second guess myself while I'm playing games. But I think the more you play, the more experience you have, and the more you learn and develop your game, the less self-doubt and the less moments like you have like that in games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. And then kind of a question I had is how does your physical preparation, like technical, tactical, all that, how does that preparation help you prepare mentally, and then vice versa? Like how does preparing mentally help with like your physical skills?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like after training, like I actually just had a conversation with this about one of my teammates. But we're talking about how like in the week leading up to a game, we stayed after and did a whole bunch of crossing and finishing. He was a striker and he was doing a whole bunch of finishing work. And then it was Toby Uzo, and then he comes in the game against Oklahoma City on Wednesday and scores 2 header goals off of crosses. And so
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about that. We're wondering how much of that was actually getting better in that week from the physical training, or how much that was just getting you in the right mindset of the confidence of like, I can finish these. And I've done this every single day this week and finished this same exact header. I can do it now in the game. And it's a combination of both, because you're training your physical game, but the more you train the physical game and the more you see that you can do it in training or with the partner training or whatever, the more confidence you have when you're in the game that you're going to be able to do the same exact thing because you've just done that every single day this week. And then the vice versa too. The more, it's just kind of like a repeating effect. Then you start seeing that, and then mentally you're like, wow, I felt so good when I did this physical training all the time after training. I'm going to keep doing that. And it's just like the cycle of continuing to do that and do that. So yeah, it's interesting. I really don't know how much is which one was more.
Yeah.
But it's funny. And then for mentally, I always am like a big visualizer. When I want to, and sometimes when I don't want to, but I'm always visualizing off the field constantly about crossing and taking guys one-on-one and defending one-on-one and winning and doing whatever. And I think that if you see yourself in your head doing it over and over and over again, when you get there on the field, even if it might be your first time in that exact situation physically, you've seen that mentally hundreds of times.
Mm-hmm.
So it just, to me, it just seems like it's just extra practice. And obviously going out there and doing it is better, but you can't do that every single day, all day long. Mentally, I mean, visually, being able to visualize that and train it mentally is just so powerful, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It is. No, it's great. And it's, I mean, the two are, I mean, so heavily linked. Like just the confidence that you get from repetition. And then when you get into that scenario, you go, okay, like I've got this. You don't have to worry because you've done it every single day. Like this is what you prepared for. Physically, your body's ready, and mentally, you'll just snap. So, I had a question. Oh shoot. You said so many cool things. Now I'm just forgetting. Oh yeah, I wanted to ask you. So I know you journal, or maybe you used to. What like, what does your journaling look like? And it doesn't mean like show us a page of your journal. It's just like,
Yeah.
because obviously that's personal. But kind of what is that? Is that just like your life? Is that like a gratitude journal? Is it like your goals? I know you're huge into goal setting. What is that? What is like your journaling like?
Yeah. It's I still journal like once a week, I'd say. Minimum, probably. Sometimes twice a week, sometimes once a week. But it's all about it's just how I'm feeling on the field, like even or how I'm playing and everything. So like a very typical like journal entry. If I was going to write one, or I probably will write one today or tomorrow, to be honest. But I'll talk about the last game or the week of training and everything, and that goes from the very simple things of just how I performed in the game. How in the game, this last game against Colorado, how did I feel like I performed? And I would talk about, I thought it was a decent game for me. And to be honest, against Colorado, this last game, I thought I really didn't do that much. I just didn't get the opportunity to play with the ball. I got like 23 passes in a game, which is nothing. Usually it's like in the 50s or 60s. And so I would talk about that, just really what's going on, and talk about also the emotional side of how I felt confidence-wise on the field. And I felt extremely confident on the field that game. And then I would talk about how I felt after the game, that we won, that we made playoffs, and almost journal too, not just strictly for soccer, but also for my future self or my kids to read it later down the road. So I'm talking about how amazing it felt to win that game and make playoffs after 3 years of not doing that. And then everything from the week of training as well, talking about the individual training sessions, how those went. Maybe I had a terrible week of training leading up to that game, and all of a sudden I played great. Or if I had a great week of training, I'll talk about the extra work, and then just really go in depth about anything that was different or similar or consistent, and just kind of go into that. And then also, once I kind of finish up like the week in review almost, then I'll go into like the goals of what's my goal for tomorrow and the next day and the next day after that. And I kind of almost, I do less of like get an assist, get a goal, get a win, because those to me are just like obvious. I obviously want to score. I obviously want to get an assist. I obviously want to win. And it's more of like goals like, look, tomorrow I want to get a 15-minute walk-in minimum. I want to do this 30-minute foam rolling and stretching session. The next day training, I want to stay after and get a lower body workout in. And then like talk about the goals of the actual stuff I'm going to do. Stay 30 minutes after, 45 minutes after. And then in the weekend or whatever, I want to prepare by doing at least one tactical analysis session. And then so it's like I do have the goals of like making playoffs and getting a contract for the next year. But a lot of my goals are focused around this is what I want my schedule to look like. And I want to hit this of 3 individual training sessions or 4 times staying after training to do a workout. And so I talk about what my week is going to look like in terms of that. And then I kind of think of it, if I do that, I'll set myself up the best way to have a good game that weekend.
Yeah, definitely. It's like you have those big career goals or like those big like achievement goals. And then you have like the process goals, like the little ones up you get there. I think that's it's really important because it's the little goals that you achieve every day that help you achieve like those big career goals or those long-term goals. Speaking of long-term goals, what are some of yours?
Yeah, I mean, I think the top of my long-term goal right now is to play in the MLS. And I know how I'm not an idiot. Like I know how hard that is. And I know how, some might even say like unrealistic that is getting up to 28. I'm now 28, turning 29, 30, getting up towards the later half of your career. I know it's very, very unrealistic. But that's one of my goals. That's my long-term goal. And that's what I play for. And that's what I train for every single day. And what really pushes me is because I really want to play in the MLS or get an MLS contract. And I also say that it doesn't have to be like the MLS. I always want to play in the highest level I possibly can. So if that's over to go play in a top division Norway or go over to the Japanese like J League or something like that, as long as I'm pushing up, that's always one of my biggest long-term goals of just playing at the absolute highest level I possibly can. And then as well as I definitely for long-term goals with my career is I definitely want to continue to work on the offensive production of my game. I think that will also lead into the long-term goal of playing at the highest level possible, because every goal kind of leads into each other. But I definitely have this idea of like I really want to be more productive, more assists, more shots on goal, more goals, even more chances created. That's something that I've been working a lot on, and I've seen improvement. And I definitely see that as for the short term, the next year or two, to really focus in on that and work on that to really become more of an offensive threat. And if I do that, then I know it's going to be even more likely to achieve the long-term goal of playing at the highest league.
Yeah. I saw your assist the other day. That was nice.
Yeah. And that's another thing. Like I was on the left, and after training, I mean, that whole week, I stay after and I work on left-footed crosses. So you're doing that rep after rep after rep. And I think that you do so many of those and you start to feel a little confident, like, okay, this is starting to work out. Or you kind of notice like, well, I'm doing a little bit better if I have this in my mental cue of like, just clip it in there or do something. And I was feeling really good with the left foot leading up into that. And then the game, it's just natural, just like, okay, not even thinking, here we go. Just go through the motion of swinging it through the ball. And yeah, it worked out. So it's funny about like the physical preparation of that leading into the mental preparation of feeling confident that leads into the assist. So it's all kind of funny how it works.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. It shows like how preparation, like day in, day out, when you put in the work, you get results. Like, well, who would have thought? But no, I mean, really, to a lot of people, it's like they want the big outcome goal, but they're not willing to put in the work day in and day out to achieve those little goals that help you get there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Become Elite. We haven't talked about it at all. What is Become Elite for everybody who doesn't know?
Yeah, Become Elite is kind of, I don't even know what to call it, to be honest. It's like my like side hustle that I really started when I was becoming a pro. And the whole idea that started was that I wanted to just kind of like have something to set me up afterwards in terms of coaching. And so I always thought that I knew I loved social media and I love creating content, and I knew I loved obviously playing soccer. So I wanted to combine that and kind of create like a coaching platform of drills or more of like a coaching platform. And then I kind of realized that as I'm becoming a pro, there's a lot of things that I didn't realize about becoming a pro, like the visas and going and becoming the foreigner policies and how hard it was and the highs and the lows and all this stuff. And I kind of realized that it'd be very cool to kind of shift this Become Elite social media platform to kind of turning it into more of a behind the scenes of becoming a pro, and then further and later down the road actually being a pro and what that's like, and the training and the diet, the nutrition, the workouts, the extra work in off season, the injuries, everything. And it kind of turned into more of this is my professional career and this is my training. This is what I do. So now I just have the YouTube channel, the podcast, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff of just putting out content. And I always have the goal of I always try to make it, as for me as a professional soccer player, something that I would benefit from, as well as somebody who's 13 that wants to be a pro. I don't want to cater it towards just younger 12, 13-year-olds, and I don't want to just cater it towards professional players. I want to create something that is going to benefit some player out there in some way, regardless of the age or the level or whatever.
Yeah. So at what point was it like, was there like a turning point where it was like, I could use this to help people, or was that the goal from the beginning, or was that kind of after you became a pro, like this might be useful to like a really wide audience?
Yeah, so it started to make, like, my very first thing was an Instagram page, and I just wanted to make an Instagram of just drills. And I just wanted, for me, to be honest, it was just for me. So I could go, if I'm going out to the field by myself, I could scroll on this Instagram page and just pick out the drills that I wanted to do for my own training session.
Mm-hmm.
And then that almost within the same day sparked the idea of like, oh no, I mean, if I'm going to benefit from this, everybody's going to benefit from this. So then it like almost immediately turned into, I want to create that coaching thing for somebody. And then almost in the same way of when I started vlogging and kind of showing my life and the behind the scenes of being a pro, at first it was kind of like, yeah, I think it'd be cool to document just for me to look back in 10 years, for my kids to look back on, for my parents over in America to look at when I'm over in Germany. And then almost immediately again, people were all of a sudden asking about my nutrition, asking about how many grams of protein I had that day. They're asking about my individual training and all this stuff. And so immediately I just saw that, like, by helping me and setting up my future self to watch my own videos later down the road or whatever, there's just so many little nuggets of information or whatever that it's going to help somebody out there. So I just kind of saw that it's really both of just, I wanted to document that journey. And then I also know that by documenting it, it really is going to help a lot of people in the same situation or who do want to be a pro one day. It's going to help them. So yeah, I think it's kind of like a weird mixture of both.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I know several players like on my college team watch your videos. And so I think it is helpful for obviously if you want to go pro, you have access like basically directly into the life of a professional soccer player, which is awesome. Also, just if you want to perform better, like to see the nutrition, to see the preparation, like to see the practice, to get those drills, like it really is great for everyone. And this just turned into a plug for Become Elite.
Yeah, that's funny.
That was going to be my last question. Do you have anything to plug? But we just did.
Yeah, no, it really is. It's awesome though. I really do. I love creating the videos and the content. It's so addicting every time I make something. It's just, I'm sure it's the same way for you with this podcast. It's just, you get addicted to creating something and helping somebody. You can also see that it's fun and it provides you some fulfillment as well. And it's just a recurring cycle of okay, I've put out this video. I want to see how it does. Okay, it's awesome. Now I'm going to create a new one. And it's just this crazy vicious cycle of just work pretty much.
Yeah. It is a lot of work, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, how long does it take to edit like one video for you?
I'd say a typical video is probably about 8 hours of editing. Yeah.
Sheesh.
I'm getting a little sick of it. And I get bored of different videos. Like, that's why I will do like a game analysis, then a vlog, and then I'll do like a 2 Minute Tuesday, because I just get bored of editing the same thing over and over again. So I try to mix it up as best I can, but yeah, definitely very tedious.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can see how that would get a little bit boring. Let's talk post-career. Last couple questions. What do you want to do after you're done?
Yeah, so my dream right now, and it always can change. I have no idea, but what I have right now for like my vision post-career is that I want to have a training facility, because I'm obsessed with the obviously the individual training and the partner training and all the stuff that goes outside of the team training, the workouts and the at the field doing the extra reps and the nutrition and all that stuff. I'm obsessed with really focusing in on that to become the best player possible. So I think it'd be so cool to have a training facility that would train players from 11 years old up to current professionals in off season, and work and train with them in small groups, kind of like my off-season series, but for other players to train that and to work on their weaknesses, find the areas of their game that they want to improve, whether that's their speed, their physique, their crossing, their whatever, and really focus in on that to help them improve those areas, and then document it on YouTube as well and create some different series about it, and then continue to post 2 Minute Tuesdays and more coaching videos and less more behind the scenes of being a pro, because I will no longer be a pro.
Right.
So that's what I see. But yeah, I mean, you never really know, and things can always change. But I think that would be a very cool thing to do.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd watch. Um, yeah, that's awesome. I guess, I mean, I could talk all day. I know you're a busy guy and you have some, I'm sure, preparation and maybe a little celebration and a lot of resting to do. But any last, maybe a favorite quote or just like a last thought to leave us with?
Yeah, I think that you kind of summed it up when we kind of were like joking around with like, it's crazy how when you put in the work, you get results. And I think that, people always have 1,000 questions when they want to ask about their training or their nutrition or their workouts or whatever. And you can get so specific to figure out the best ways to optimize everything. But at the end of the day, it's always about just work. And it's cliche, but I always think that the player out there who just works, even if he doesn't have the optimal nutrition plan or the optimal workout plan or the optimal training coach or personal coach or whatever, the player who just works and does the most is going to be the guy who figures it out and goes the furthest. And a lot of players understand that, but they really don't put into practice they understand that the work is going to get them the results, but yet they'd rather spend an afternoon researching or even looking or DMing pros about their workout plan instead of going out and doing a workout. Mm-hmm. So a big thing I always try to stress is like, just go out and do it. If you want to improve your mile time, go out and run a mile. If you want to go work out and get stronger, you want to do more push-ups, do more push-ups. You want to work on your crossing, hit 50 crosses. Just go out and don't overcomplicate it and put in the work. And while you're doing that, the best thing you can do is then simultaneously work to optimize your training and optimize everything on the side. But the focus is always on the work. And that's why I always try to end things off with everything, because you can get very, very detailed with things. And I feel like some players get a little overwhelmed with the details.
Yeah, that's a good thought. You put in the work, you get the results. I think it's a testament to your career, both on the field, soccer-wise, and on your YouTube. I know you're a hard worker, and so it's awesome to see you doing well, making the playoffs, and be rooting for you.
Yeah, because I'm the least naturally gifted soccer player in the world. So if I can make it out here, then anybody can do it.
Just do the work. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks a bunch, Matt. It's awesome to talk. And yeah, good luck in the playoffs.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Of course.